Hey everyone, and welcome to the College Chats podcast. On this episode, we're going to talk to our guest about an extraordinary college football coaching career, but one not without its pitfalls. But first, with the College Chaps, I'm joined by Oliver, who has his finger on the pulse of every inch of college football. Oliver, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing really well. We're recording this on Thursday night as week one gets underway. Boise State USF on UK television. Congratulations to everyone who has pushed the buttons and pressed the matter to get college football on UK screens. So it's going to be free for everyone, I believe, this weekend. So drink it up, enjoy it, prove that it deserves to be where it is.
Our guest is a college football legend and an eight-time winning national championship strength and conditioning coach, with first at Alabama Crimson Tide and then as strength coach and special teams coach at the Georgia Bulldogs. We all recognise his booming voice, which earned him the nickname Coach Yeah, but behind the success and championship rings, he was facing a much tougher demon than any college football opponent, which is why he's here to talk to us today. His book, Skull Session, is available for pre-order now and is launched September 11th. So it's great to welcome, for the first time on this podcast, the University of West Alabama head coach, Coach Scott Cochran. Coach, welcome. How are you?
I'm awesome. Thanks for having me on today, baby.
Yeah, you're one of these guys that we wish we would had on many times, but the opportunity arose, and I think we're both really excited to speak to you. So let me start off, right? We'll talk about the book in a second, right? But you've told the story. You do a lot of public speaking now. You've told your story very publicly. It's a really brave thing to do. At what point did you realize that you wanted or needed to write the book?
You know, uh, people that are in active addiction, trying to get to recovery, um, it's difficult to talk about it because you're so afraid that you're going to mess up, right? You're so worried that, man, I can't tell people about it because what if I mess up? They're going to see me as a failure. Uh, and so I decided to batten down the hatchet and let's just go. Like, kick the door in, let people know my story, because I had 2.5 years sober at one point. Um, and I wanted to do A and B and C, but I had that fear, like, what if I relapse? Then I won't be able to do these things. But this time I was I was ready to let people know the truth, right? Because it's not cool, right? It's not cool to be in addiction, and it's not cool to talk about being vulnerable, right? That's tough. And so I figured if I just do like I've always done in coaching and just rip the band-aid off and let the world know, maybe I could help some people, which is selfish in a way because helping others helps me. So it's a little bit selfish, but I know that I can help people. I have, and I want to continue to do that.
School sessions released on September the 11th. George gave a little bit of an overview there, but for anyone who doesn't know your story, hasn't heard about the book, how would you describe school sessions to those who are looking to read it? If you had to give a short blurb, for example, to really sell what the book is about.
Yeah, sure. It's it's my personal journey through addiction, but it's also if you want to get better, right? You don't have to be sick to get better, right? But if you want to get better, like you want to define success for yourself or for your organization, what are the steps that you need to take that step to get better, right? To find success. And so this book is a roadmap, right? It's got great football stories. It's got personal stories about Coach Saban, about Kirby Smart, about myself. Um, but it's basically gives you a blueprint. Hey, this is what we did at Alabama. We had a lot of success. This is what we did at Georgia. We had a lot of success. We even did a little bit of it at LSU, and we had success. Um, and now I'm at West Alabama, and I'm doing the same thing. So in a nutshell, what the book is all of those, what I call skull sessions, which are mental development, character development that we use for players. And it gives you a sequence, right? The first phase is here. The second phase is here. How do I write my goals? Like everybody says, write your goals down. Well, define that, right? And so I define it and I give you examples and ways to which that works. And so it's really a blueprint for success. And the crazy part about it is I'm in the middle of my recovery and I'm grinding, trying to stay sober, trying to figure it out. And every single step that I used in skull sessions with Georgia and with Alabama, it lined up. Everything, how I spoke to myself, my positive self-talk, was I writing goals down, right? Because when you're a CEO, sometimes the goals that you used to write to become CEO, right? You think, I don't need to write those goals anymore. I know what they are, right? Well, this gives you, hey, no, really, let's write them down. Like, let's write down your mission statement for your organization. What is that? What does that look like? And so it's taking it, really simple, really direct blueprint for success.
I think you make an interesting point there, Coach, because so many people that you speak to in and around football talk about how football is almost a metaphor for life, and what you basically encapsulated there is the roadmap that saw success with Alabama, Georgia. We talk about LSU there as well. Is now helping you in this roadmap, this journey, a personal one away from football. That sounds about right to me.
Yes, 100%. It just lined up perfectly, right? So if I'm sitting there and I've got a family member that's struggling with addiction and I just don't know what to do, right? I'm at wit's end. They've either dried up the bank account or they're stealing or it's just bad and it seems like the end of the road, right? I wrote the book for those people too, so that they can understand, hey, it's okay. Because my recovery was not a straight line, right? My recovery was here, big fall, fall, up, fall, right? So my recovery is not a straight line. I didn't walk into the rehab for the first time, walk out, and I'm clean for life. No, I had many, many, many setbacks. And the hardest thing is to raise your hand and ask for help, especially when you think you have it figured out, right? I had 2 years of sobriety and I relapsed and I did not know, I did not have the courage to say, I need help again because everyone saw me as, oh, he's got, man, look at his recovery. He's doing so good. But on the inside, I'd already relapsed. And so that one was the hardest one to raise my hand and say, I fell off and I need help again. And that's when I stepped away from football for a year so that number one, I could get better, but number two, I could help others. And writing in the book is helping others.
And you talk in the book, Coach, about the fact that when you were at Alabama, Coach Saban didn't know, Steve Sarkisian didn't know. When you moved to Georgia, Kirby Smart didn't know what was going on. How difficult was that to tell them, to let them know what was happening? Because you talk in the book about the conversation you had with Kirby, and Kirby was obviously very supportive of you, but
Yeah.
you're very close. Your family's very close, right? So how was it when you broke that news to them? That I imagine for someone on the outside looking in, that must have been painful to do.
Yes, it was very, very tough. I literally, I remember it because the sequence, I go into it in the book, but I get the drug test back at the rehab. I'm thinking I'm only going to be there for 2 weeks. Like I told them, I'm just coming in. I'm struggling, but I'm not that bad, which was a complete lie. I was out of control, but I thought, hey, if I just stayed there for 2 weeks, got through the withdrawals, and then go back to work, I'll be fine. Well, I got that drug test back, and that drug test said carfentanil and norfentanil was all they found in my system. So the owner of the rehab said, hey, man, you can't go back. You'll die. Told my wife that. And so that night, I get this news that they want me to stay here for extended amount of time, that if I go back, I'm going to die. I get that information and I am stressing. I'm freaking out. I'm like, man, I'm going to get fired. There's no way I can do this. I mean, this is crazy. There's no way I can stop coaching. I've never not coached since I was 19 years old. How am I going to do this? And we had a meditation at the rehab. And in that meditation, it was like God telling me, I got you. I got you. And there was just peace. I just had this sense of peace, that it's all going to be okay, that I just need to surrender all of this and just give it to him and let him handle it. Let God just take it from here. And man, it saved my life, because the next morning I had to call Kirby and tell him that I'm not coming back to work. I'm not. The guy that you hired to run special teams, that has been doing I was doing a really good job. I can look at it now and say that. At the time, I thought I was awful, but we were number 3 in the country in special teams, and we were number 1 in the SEC in special teams that year. And I'm recruiting at a very high level, but I didn't think I was doing good enough anyway. So, but when I called him, it was like God stepped in again, and Kirby said, what can I do for you and your family? Kept me on contract, didn't fire me, kept my job. He said, we'll be here when you get healthy. And so I stayed in rehab for 100 days, and really saved my life.
That's the kind of support that everybody wants to have. Not everybody has, right? You'll acknowledge that not every walk of life people, employers are that supportive. Let's go back a little. Let's go back to the start, actually, because one of the things I know you from your time at Alabama. I then know you your time you went to Georgia. I didn't know that you had been at LSU, but what struck me was, when I was reading some background information about you, is that you've got brothers who are physiotherapists,
Yes.
and you were going to go into that line of work,
Yeah.
but it was your dad that pushed you, because you had always wanted to be a coach. And what struck me was that seemed to be a calling to you very early in your life. So tell us about the calling to becoming a coach, because you at the start of this episode you talked about you're a coach and you want to coach. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a football coach. You want to be a coach.
Right.
So tell us about, I use the word calling, but how
Yeah.
you knew that you wanted to be a coach.
Yeah. So, I was 19 years old. I was in college. I was not playing football. I did not play college football. My career ended in high school. And so I have 2 older brothers, and both of them are physical therapists. Like, they showed me the route. Like, if you do this, then you do this PT school, and then you join the business, right? And so I was like, man, these guys are making really good money. This looks like a great living. I'm going to do the same thing. So back then, you didn't need to have an undergrad or your bachelor's to get into PT school. So I got accepted when I was 19. So I'm going to PT school. It's a done deal. I'm about to take out this huge loan. And my dad said, no. My dad said, no, you're not. And I was like, okay. I cut grass in the morning and I work at the bar at night to make tuition, like, what do you mean? No. And he said that since you were 10 years old, you said that you were going to coach and change people's lives, and you haven't even tried. And my mom was a teacher for 25 years in the public system in Louisiana. And she's like, don't you dare coach. I'm around those high school coaches and they're just, you don't want to be that. And and I got my dad saying, forget all that. You need to go for your goals, your dreams, and try it. Like you can go to PT school in a year. Just give it 1 year. And so I called up the high school that was on LSU's campus, U High Laboratory School. And I said, do you have any positions available? And they said, yeah, we got a weight room, special teams, running backs, linebackers. You know, you got to take all those positions. I was like, well, let me come interview. So, you know, I got my whole deal, sports coat, tie, I'm ready to go. And to get to his office to have this meeting, I had to walk through the weight room. I walked through the weight room, kids are working out, and their technique's just really bad. And so I was like, hey, man, let me help you with that. You know, talking to a young high school kid, like, hey, let me help you. And they were like, please. Within 10 seconds, I knew, right? Like, it was like, ah, like my jacket, my tie, they're on the bench. I'm in it, sweating, rocking and rolling, coaching my tail off. And it was just like, this is what God put me on this earth to do, right? The head coach actually came through the weight room about an hour later, and he's like, man, have y'all seen this college kid that was coming to interview for a coaching job? He didn't even show up. And I was like, whoa, coach, that's me. And I'm drenched.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, okay, you're the guy. I said, yeah, I'm Scott Cochran. And he's like, oh, great. He's like, do you know what you're doing in here? And I was like, I know more than them. And he's like, well, you got the job. I was like, thank you for $0 a month. But I was grateful to have it, and I loved it. I stayed cutting grass in the morning. I went to class from about 11 to 2. I was at football from 3 to 10, and I stopped working at the bar because it just didn't make sense to be coach and serving alcohol. So I stopped doing that, and I still cut grass. So yeah, that's how the journey began.
And you go from that journey where ultimately, well, initially coaching wasn't in the plan for you to
Right.
working with some of the I don't think arguably is the right word, it's the greatest college football head coaches in all time. And you talk in the book about your relationship with Coach Nick Saban. What do you looking back at your time working alongside him? What do you think were the biggest lessons that you learned from Coach Saban?
His attention to detail is every minute of the day is calculated. He has a plan for his schedule. If you watch practice and the organization of it, that's just a little piece. But his attention to detail for every piece of the organization, not just the offense, not just the defense, not just the weight room. He's also involved with raising money. Like the details that he did and the commitment to excellence that I saw, I just fell in love with, right? Like I went to a high school where I lost 2 games the entire time I was there. I lost 21-20 in a semifinal, and I lost 14-7 in a state championship game. So I lost 2 games. I'm not big into losing, right? So I've been around the Nick Saban personality the whole time I put pads on. And so it was an easy fit for me because that's what I was aspiring to be. So it was a really, I don't know, we saw eye to eye on a lot of things, character, integrity, those things that I achieve or I'm trying to strive for is what I wanted. And I saw it in him. And I mean, the proof's in the pudding, it worked.
I mean, I thought when we started this conversation, it was going to be quite a serious conversation, Coach, and it is, right? But you also have a humorous side. Let me ask you this question: you're well known for your kind of vocal, yelling at the kids. Who's got the most scary yell, you or Coach Saban? Who do you think the kids would least like to get yelled at by?
Coach Saban, for sure. hands down. Like I can yell and I can jump and I can go, but mine was more of tough love. His was discipline, right? It's like I was like the vice principal and he was the principal, you know?
Okay.
But he would send them to me to discipline them. So the yelling had already been done, right? For the most part. When I got to him, it was, okay, you have to do this because you messed up this.
You've touched on this a little bit. We get back to the book. As I said right at the outset, you've been such a successful coach everywhere you've been. And you talked about, your high school record as well. At what point did you realize that you had to step away from the game for the good of your health? Because it goes at length in the book, but people haven't read the book yet. So tell us about
Right.
that moment.
Yeah. I mean, I was in a position where I made a lot of money and I was almost a slave to the money. And 2023 season's going on. I'm almost at 2.5 years of sobriety, but I'm not enjoying my sobriety. I'm struggling. They call it white knuckling, that white knuckling, holding on for dear life. And I did that for a long time. And we're in the 2023 season. And I'll tell you what, I started looking at my rings. I started seeing, man, I've got 8 national championships. My goal has always been to get 10. I'm like, man, I'm going to get that before I'm 45, or I'm going to get 10 before I'm 50 years old. So my ego started to just swell a little bit, And I remember it clear as day. It was the Kentucky game, and I just had enough. And so I found a doctor, and he started writing me prescription for Percocet. And man, looking in the mirror during that time was really difficult because I had been living a lie through my addiction, but now I was doubling it up because I was telling everybody I was sober. So it was really just a hard time. My wife noticed and she said, hey, we were about to go play Florida State in the bowl game. We're in Miami. We're in the hotel. And she grabs me, and I'll never forget it because it was a Thursday practice, which is a really hard practice for special teams. And she grabbed my cheeks and she said, I know you're struggling. I don't know if you've picked up. I don't know if you're about to pick up, but this can be our last game coaching at Georgia. And at the time, I'm like, yeah, whatever, because I'm an active addiction. But about 2 weeks later is when I looked at the man in the mirror and I had to come clean and had to tell people, hey, I fell off, I relapsed and I need to get back. And so the decision was very difficult because, frankly, I was fearful that I would never get hired again, right? If I come out and say that I am an addict, what are the chances that a football team or an organization is going to take a chance on me? And so that's where my relationship with God just became so strong because he had always provided, right? Why wouldn't he now? So for a year, we had to figure out our finances. For a year, I had to find ways to pay for my family to live the life that I wanted them to live. So I did a ton of speaking engagements. I sat down with Ivan Mizell and we wrote a book. And now I'm back coaching, right? So now the book is even better because it's not I have to make money. It's I can help others, right? I can help people. And some of the money I'm making is going to go to the nonprofit that I started, So it's just a win-win-win for everybody because and only because I'm in recovery and I'm not living a lie anymore.
Coach, you touched on, we're going to touch on about the new role in coaching, but you mentioned there and touched on the public speaking engagements that you do now. And alongside those and the book, what do you want people to take away from their interactions with you, whether it is from attending one of your speaking engagements with young athletes, or whether it's people who read the book when it comes out, what do you want them to take away from your experiences?
I think number one is recovery is real, and it can happen no matter how far down. You may have to go to prison. You may have to lose your job. You may have to lose relationships, but recovery is real. And then number two, don't be afraid to raise your hand and ask for help. Don't take the blessing from your friends, right? If I just would have asked one friend, hey man, I'm really struggling, they would have stood up and jumped in and would have helped in any way. But now I've had to make amends to those people because I didn't give them that opportunity. So they feel really guilty that I overdosed in 2020. They feel really guilty that they may have been sitting side by side with me as we were winning championships and getting guys to the NFL and having all the success, right? You got to define what success is for you, but for the outside world, it looked like success. And I have best friends sitting by me, talking to me every day that have no idea. And if I just would have asked one of them, they would have jumped through anything to help me. So I always say, like, number one, recovery is real. Don't quit on it. Don't give up on it. Keep striving, keep surrendering. And number two, asking for help. Don't take the blessing from your friends.
It's a great point, isn't it? Because you don't know what the person sitting beside you is going through. And you're a really good example of that, that in a very high pressure environment, people couldn't understand what was, or didn't know. You didn't give them clues. We are both huge college football fans. This guy here watches college football from any part of the country. I'm more of an SEC fan. I admit I had to Google the University of West Alabama. Um,
So did I. So that's cool.
I don't. You can have made me feel really bad there, but you made me feel great. What was intriguing to you about the role? Because they contacted you, if I'm correct. What was it that
Yes.
made it so intriguing to you that you eventually became the head coach there?
I had always dreamed, or always the ultimate goal for me one day was to become a head coach. Um, and all those goals and dreams kind of took a seat when I stepped away from the game for a year. And I had mentioned to two people, some powerful people, that hey, I might be interested in coming back to coaching. And they were like, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I'll anything. I love football. I can help on special teams. I can be weight room. I can do any of it. Uh, my offense and defense needs work, but I can pretty much do anything that a position would ask. Uh, and so I entertained a couple of phone calls. I got a couple of cool phone calls, uh, but they just didn't feel right. Uh, they just weren't the right opportunity. They were financially incredible, but for me personally, I didn't feel like it was a good fit. Um, and so when they called me for this position, it was, I don't want to say it was easy, but it fit. It was like, there it is, because 5 years ago, I would have never financially, I wouldn't have been able to take this job. You know, it's a Division II. It's not about money here. And so now being in the position I was in, it was like, you know what? This would be perfect. But I still want to, help my nonprofit. I still want to finish my book. There's a lot of things that I want to still do besides coach, but coaching is, in that front seat right now.
There's something of I think this is the right way of describing it, mini Alabama reunion at the University of West Alabama. How's that working out? How is it for you working with, some of the guys that you coached while you're in Tuscaloosa?
Awesome. I mean, I know these young men better than they know themselves, and so it was really, I mean, I hate to say it, but it was really a phone call and they all came running, right? Like I called up and I said, "Hey, what are you doing?" Some of them were coaching already in smaller roles, and some were just retired from the NFL and sitting on the couch trying to figure out, because they all have degrees, right? What do I do now that I have a degree? Now that I'm out of the NFL, what am I going to do the next 50 years of my life? Um, and so when I called him, I told him like, "Hey, this is not a money opportunity. This is an opportunity for you to give back to the game that gave you so much." And they sprinted here. I mean, they got here. They were here the next day. Most of them, and they're, I haven't told anyone no. But there are plenty of them that are gonna make their way over here once they're officially out of, whether it's the professional league or the NFL. Once they're officially retired, they're gonna come coach with me. And if I know you, right, I know what you can bring to the table.
You open up the season this Saturday against Full Valley State. What can we expect out of the University of West Alabama in 2025? You've got a great quarterback there, guy who's at the Manning Passing Academy this last off season. Spencer also now productive last year. What can we expect?
Man, I hope that we represent this university in a class manner. I hope you see a physical team, a well-conditioned team, and a brotherhood, a team that's really close and that can handle adversity. I can't tell you, what the scoreboard is going to look like, but I can tell you we're going to bring our best. I have some really good coaches that do a great job with the X's and O's, and I'm going to be here to support them, but I'm not going to get in their way. I am no fool. I know my strengths and I know their strengths. So I'm going to let them do what they do, and then I'm just going to help them with the big picture.
Yeah.
So that's coach talk. That's coach talk for, I'm not going to give you any details because I don't know.
You don't know who's listening. Listen, Coach, we've got to the end of our time. Normally at this point in the podcast, we ask our guests what they're going to be up to, what they're going to be doing, what our listeners or viewers can watch. But I actually want to take the opportunity to ask you about, you talked about this, right? You do work with the American Addiction Recovery Association, and Eliminate the Whisper. And I'm conscious that we'll have people on this side of the pond who maybe are going through struggles, and it won't be so relevant to them. But but you can also touch on where they can get, how they should speak to people. But tell us a little bit about the work you do with the association, and if we've got any listeners from the States who are looking for some help, how they can get in touch.
Yeah, so it's the American Addiction Recovery Association. We started it a little over a year ago, and it has been really cool. I'm the president of it. Also helped Jeff Breedlove out of Georgia to get the party started, and we're trying to save lives. You can find us by eliminatethewhisper.org, eliminatethewhisper.org, and just see what we're up to, what we're trying to do. If you watch, any football or volleyball in the US, you see October is pink for breast cancer awareness. Well, recovery month is September. And so and our color is purple. So we're trying to make September purple. So across the sports world, you're going to see purple socks, purple wristbands, purple ribbons. You'll see hair bows for cheerleaders, volleyball girls in hair bows or socks. So purple is our color, and that's one of our five. We have five things that we're trying to do. Another one is to get Narcan everywhere there's a fire extinguisher, to have a box of Narcan because Narcan saves lives. I wouldn't be here without it. So we're doing a lot of cool stuff. It's a national group. We're not international yet, but we are one phone call away from being international. So come check us out, eliminatethewhisper.org, and see what we're doing.
Awesome. Well, the book is out the 11th of September, if I understand.
In
And
the US, it just came out, so it's
is
out
it
here.
out? Good. Well, I looked it up on amazon.co.uk. You can get it, you can pre-order it now, and you can buy it on the 11th of September. So we'll get as many people as we can to buy your book. That's all the time we've got for on this episode. By coincidence, I think in 2 weeks' time I'm going to be driving very close to Livingston, so I'm going to come into your bookstore and buy some
Come on.
t-shirts and bring them home.
Yeah.
That's all from us. Thanks to Coach Cochran for taking the time out. Thanks to Ollie, and thanks to you for listening and watching and supporting us. Stay safe and well, and catch you all next time.